Thank you for joining us. I am your host today for this breakout session. We have 4 amazing humans with us. One is not yet up here yet, but he's also amazing. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about each person before they get started. First of all, we have Ryan Beale. Oh my gosh, it's really small. He is the CEO and founder of Prepare-You Mental Health Education. Ryan Beale is the CEO and founder of the Live Network, a public benefit corporation. The combination of personal family tragedy and the changing landscape of mental health due to emerging social network platforms prompted Ryan to journal and author the book 40 Days Off Facebook, which is now utilized in schools across North America through the Prepare-You mental health curriculum. He created Therapy Live, a HIPAA-compliant intelligent telehealth platform. Ryan is the co-author of Prepare-You, the first ever evidence-supported experiential. It's no longer experimental. Experiential mental health curriculum for teens and is being utilized in 8 states. Ryan's work has been featured in Teen Vogue, the U.S. Department of Education newsletter, the Huffington Post, Education Weekly, Michigan Education Association, Now This, NPR, and Fox News. We also have here today Dennis Leggio. Dennis is the KnowResolve founder who lost his father to suicide when he was just a teenager. For years, he battled guilt, shame, anger, depression, and his own thoughts of suicide. A song that he wrote years later allowed him to begin a journey toward healing. Eventually, the song ignited a passion to raise awareness about suicide in his community because the subject is highly stigmatized and rarely discussed. With the help of family, friends, and colleagues, KnowResolve was born in 2007 and remains dedicated to raising awareness about youth suicide and advocating for depression. We also have here with us today Will Heininger, Program Coordinator of the University of Michigan Depression Center. Will is a former University of Michigan defensive lineman who struggled with depression during his time at school. He's working to raise awareness for student athletes struggling with mental illness and the hope that as a culture and as a society, communities will realize the importance of mental health and the services which support it. And last but not least, we also have with us today Anthony Grupido. Anthony is hailed as Michigan's best magician. He's opened for the Impractical Jokers and Darcy Lynn, the ventriloquist, but wanted to use magic for a much deeper purpose. Due to his own struggles with depression and suicide, Anthony visits schools with his presentation, The Magic of Hope, educating audiences about coping skills and sharing his story of survival. So without further ado, we're going to allow each panelist to tell a little bit about their programs and the work that they're doing. And then at the end, we will have an opportunity for questions and answers from you. So without further ado, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks to everybody on the panel and the work that Kevin Song has been doing. I've seen it now for 4 years, and to see the school summit come to fruition is amazing, as really the people in this room and throughout the country, the administrators are the ones that are going to determine the fate of this next generation. So I have a brief slide presentation I want to go through with some videos. You'll hear my voice in there too, so that way I don't have to talk the whole time. So Prepare-You, I want to give you a deeper look in what it is and talk about the background. We say it's healthier mind, healthier us, and it's the most important class of your life. How do I do this? I don't know if I did click play. Yeah, I did. It's in there. Yeah, could you just click play on the video? There's 3 short videos.
We just discussed this, Ryan, so I apologize.
No problem. If I was a comedian, we'd all be entertained right now, but I had 2 good delivery jokes today. I'm going to stop there. Timing is everything. What's that? Okay. The magician's about to disappear. Be careful. Does that count as a third or no? No? All right.
Don't go far. I'm going to give it back.
They're starting it.
There we go.
I was just going to clarify that I raise hope for more than just student athletes. Raise hope for all people with depression and anxiety. I'm sorry if that was misworded or whatnot, but I try to relate to all students and all people. So certainly not just athletes.
I only read what they gave me. Sorry.
Can you go back and play the last video with the volume? I'm sorry. Oh, you're good. All right.
Generation to learn, grow, heal, and thrive. The Prepare You curriculum, developed by the Therapy Live team and reviewed and endorsed by leading psychologists, is designed to be a plug-and-play system that any teacher can easily facilitate, either as a standalone course or as an integrated part of the overall health sequence. Prepare You provides students with the tools necessary to get to the root of potential problems, working to prevent unhealthy coping patterns from emerging and flourishing in the first place. Students will learn how to effectively process anger, recognize suicidal ideation, decrease anxiety, develop problem-solving skills, engage in self-care, promote healthy families, cultivate empathy, manage their social media use, and foster healthier relationships with themselves and their peers. This comprehensive mental, emotional, and behavioral health curriculum is designed to connect with and engage students
From a range of varied backgrounds, and most importantly, to connect with their diverse learning styles. Through a carefully curated combination of unique audio, visual, and written didactic materials in conjunction with experiential processes occurring both in and out of class, students will engage with a novel curriculum that will help them to not only have a memorable class learning about health, but will empower them to actually lead healthier and more fulfilling lives going forward. The Prepare You curriculum will provide your students with an invigorating series of meaningful classroom experiences along with a set of eminently practical tools to navigate the complex challenges of emerging adulthood. The curriculum materials your staff and students will receive will include a step-by-step teacher manual, the Prepare You student handbook with tools for them to utilize in class and for when they complete the program as well, detailed teacher instruction videos that will guide facilitators throughout every step of the process, 12 in-class captivating videos, 40 days off Facebook with an integrated personal journal, interactive card games designed to improve peer engagement and understanding, along with interactive resources and additional tools to support students as they prepare for the future. With suicide rates skyrocketing amongst teens throughout the country, it is imperative that we don't just give them safer environments to share their feelings, but that we deliver them tools that they need and deserve to live a more authentic and meaningful life. This is what Prepare You does. So it's a good way to give kind of what some of the pieces are of Prepare You, and I want to talk about it in more depth as well. So Prepare You is been researched for grades 8 through 12, so we say 13 and 19. It's experiential, there's group process. They're actually, by definition, building resilience. And we confront suicide in a very meaningful way. It's not until they get to the top of the emotional arc that they actually start engaging in these conversations, which is class 8. And we're filling up their toolbox along the way. To give you an idea about who we are, all of our founders, we have lived experience with mental health, suicide, our family members, as well as we're experts, either licensed researchers, clinicians, interventionists, and so forth. We solve impossible problems. I say that, and it might sound silly, but we actually, one of our co-founders was the lead at developing the Patriot missile defense system. He was the first to discover that we need to be able to stop rogue countries from attacking because of ideologies. So the other thing that we've solved here is within less than 2 hours of training, any health teacher is able to deliver this program with the results that I'll share with you shortly. At the same time, we're internationally recognized. Thankfully, we've been an IBM Global Entrepreneur recipient. We presented at the International Congress of Applied Psychology, American Psychological Association, Canadian Psychological Association, we also have patents around some very sophisticated technology that we hope will improve outcomes with treatment, as well as everything we do. We've had IRB approval for doing research pre and post, and we have continuous research that we're doing. The evidence that we found in the Prepare You program from day one, as well as moving forward and continuously throughout the country, is there's an increase in meaning and purpose, there's increase in emotional support, there's decrease in trauma symptoms, anxiety symptoms, as well as the reporting on pain symptoms. And if you look at the bottom, the measures that we use and that the schools are utilizing today are national measures. Currently, Prepare You is being used in 9 states. We've had the #1 state, academic school in the state, as well as alternative school districts, religious school districts, private day schools. We even have juvenile delinquent facilities using the program. And we've also had schools that have had multiple suicides as well as shootings. So what's nice to see is as it's evolved that we've been continuously seeing the positive effects it's had. And, you know, we're happy to say, and I know that, you know, unfortunately we can't control this, but, you know, thankfully no schools that have brought Prepare You have had a suicide since. And God willing, that continues for as long as possible. So because of shortness of time and some technical issues I'll run through. Bottom line is these issues are landing at your desk, as you guys are all here and you know. Suicide and behavioral health issues are the top 3 reasons for death for adolescents. 6 times greater than the next 7 combined reasons that young adolescents die. So 13 to 15, there's a 400% increase in mortality due to behavioral health issues. That's why the program is designed to really go into a health class, typically that transition point going into high school, because of that 13 to 15 age group is a critical time where 80% of those students, that are struggling, won't seek care for 10 years as of now. The program has been endorsed by the president of the APA Media Division of Psychology and Technology, Henry Ford, clinical psychology departments. It talked about the positive impacts they've had on self-referrals, as well as community mental health groups that we've been partnering with are advocating and also endorsing the program now. So just for the sake of time and audio, Prepare You is also being used as a front-loading restorative practices. This is a video of Pat Watson, who now is superintendent of Bloomfield Hills School District. He has Prepare You in 3 different districts: the #1 achieving district in the state, a school district that had 5 losses, as well as a typical high school, whatever that means today. The one thing that I would say is amazing is that any teacher, any human being that is a certified teacher that can sit in a process and trust a process can facilitate Prepare You. You do not have to be a mental health professional to get significant data and results and impact on kids in their lives. So whenever these fears of we need to have experts come in, we always tell people, especially when they get to the suicide class, they say, should we bring in the counselor or the psychologist? Say, no, we don't need to go ahead and raise these flags that we need parental supervision to have a conversation. Kids are already talking, they're thinking, they're nervous. They need a place and a safe way to have these conversations. And the best way they can do it is having a teacher that can introduce a meaningful way for them to engage with one another and to build trust while they're learning evidence-based tools and building that group cohesion in the classroom. In addition to the Prepare You curriculum, we just launched the Home Edition. So every student's family gets access to the Home Edition. They follow along. There's no more excuses why families can't be part of the process. So we know that people are hurt in group, they heal in group. And so one is that group process in the school is critical, as well as the fact that every family needs to play a role. Every person has to do their part. And Prepare You gives them the opportunity to do that. So the family follows along the session. Literally, a teacher just clicks a button, and every family that is part of the student body that are in Prepare You get to follow along class by class, as well as they have engagement tools that they can do with their family along the way. So because of the sake of time, basically this video is to show that these 14-year-olds talk about what happens when you talk about uncomfortable topics. And really they have life-changing moments. They connect. They problem solve, they process. What is really amazing about Prepare You is that no matter what classroom, what demographic, what is going on in current events, their group will be different and dynamic based on what is meaningful to that group and that person. It is a process. It's experiential. We got to be careful. People do that, so we got to be careful. But it's really a process that kids are metabolizing. How is this information meaningful for me? How can I help my family member that's struggling? How can I help my friend that I know is hurting themselves? So without further ado, I want to thank you for the time, and any questions after, I'm going to pass it on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan, and fellow panelists, everyone for being here today. My name is Dennis Liegghio. I'm the founder of a nonprofit organization called KnowResolve, based out of Macomb County. I started this organization in 2007 after years of struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts of my own that were linked to my father's death by suicide. My last words to him were in anger, and I carried around a lot of difficult feelings for a lot of years after that experience. Music was my way through, or at least the first step in the process. I started writing songs, and the first one was called KnowResolve, and that's what led me to starting this organization eventually, and changed the spelling from N-O to K-N-O-W to hopefully inspire hope. And what I do is I go to middle schools and high schools, and I share my story in an assembly-style presentation. I talk about the loss. I talk about what I felt going through it. After the fact, I perform the song along with several other songs, and I talk about the stories behind them and where I was, what stage I was at in my journey through the grief and my own depression and mental health issues. And along the way, we talk about coping skills and what that looks like and things that you can incorporate into your own life. We talk about what warning signs might look like in your friends. We talk about resources that are available. I talk about things that I incorporate into my own life through these stories and through this music in a way that is hopeful and relatable to the kids. This presentation is offered free of charge to schools in Macomb and Oakland County because this is where we do all our fundraising. And so if you're outside of Macomb or Oakland County and you're interested in this, just come and talk to me. I'm always willing to work with anyone. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback over the years about this presentation from students and staff alike. I speak to about 15,000 kids every year, and the running total now is over 130,000. So hopefully it's helping to save lives. The second program that we offer is the Activity Center for Teens that we just opened in Shelby Township, called The Shed. And this is a youth-driven space, and when I say that, I mean that the kids are involved in every step of the process here. We have a youth advisory council of 10 high school students, and they determine what programs and activities are offered and how the space looks. So when we say that it is for teens by teens, we mean exactly that. If you've heard Dr. Joyner speak at this year's conference or last year's conference, you'll know that two of the leading risk factors for suicidal ideation is believing that you're alone and believing that you're a burden or that life itself is a burden. And the Shed is meant to inspire purpose and connection. And although it's not a therapeutic space, we don't offer mental health services, it is therapy to be there, to connect with your peers, to connect with passion and purpose, to connect with adults who care. And Nancy Beale has said many, many times that one of the single strongest protective factors against suicide is a connection with a trusted, caring adult. So we offer a fun, safe, judgment-free space, and everything we do there is offered free to the students. So I thank you for having me. It is an honor, and open to any questions at the end.
Same problem you had. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Will Heininger. I am the outreach coordinator for mental health at the University of Michigan Depression Center. I also do in-school presentations, not just schools, but to businesses in different communities. And one of the things I actually enjoy the most is making mental health relatable to vastly different audiences. So I've been fortunate to share my story, with headlining places like Stanford, and then also, really tiny towns in northern Michigan that make, Plymouth look like New York City. And that these illnesses don't discriminate, right? They show up in all corners of the world, so to speak. So in 2012, I had finished playing football at Michigan. I was working in Chicago in finance. I was so happy to have gotten good treatment and be healthy and thriving. And a woman named Trish Meyer, who worked at the U of M Depression Center, asked, along with my therapist who treated me at Michigan, if I would be willing to present a student advocate mental health award at our annual Depression on College Campuses conference. So this happens in every March. You guys should come. It's, 18th, 19th? March 18th and 19th. We have national experts, and this year's topic is diversity, equity, and belonging. But that was the first time I was ever asked to share my story. And afterwards, a doctor came up from the audience and he said, "Nobody is talking about this. I need you to come with me to Phoenix and tell this to the NCAA at this upcoming conference." And so I did that. And the same thing happened, and a couple more of those, and ESPN happened to be there for other people. And they happened to film it, and it got out. And I started to realize the sort of scope and breadth of these issues, and stepping out of some of my naive sort of things I believed as I recovered, which was, even though this was the worst thing I've ever experienced, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody, that I assumed that eventually, most people who went through what I went through eventually got better. And it was in, seeing my dad get sick, and seeing friends get sick, and seeing strangers get sick, and former football players kill themselves, and start to realize that, in fact, most people aren't getting better, and many of them aren't even getting to treatment for many of them the same reasons that I wasn't originally open to treatment or even knew about it. So that led me back to Ann Arbor to work on a program called Athletes Connected, which is a student-athlete mental health program. We aim to raise awareness and reduce stigma and promote help seeking and teach positive coping skills. And during the creation of that program, we asked the student-athletes, what do you guys want? What would you use? What would you not use when it came to mental health? And they said, whatever it is, it has to be relatable, it has to be reusable so it can be used at any time, and it has to be private or something we can access on our own. And the idea of videos came up, and this was one of two that were the first in a series of videos meant to help educate our student athletes about mental health. So in the same way that Peer-to-Peer, as some of you guys attended downstairs, is our mental health programming in middle and high schools, Athletes Connected is our mental health programming for student athletes. The video you're about to see is a part of that programming. It tells some of my story of suffering with major depression and anxiety at the University of Michigan while I was playing football. And it is a video that I show when I go to schools, and then I will tell you afterwards what I do after the video. So if you could play that when you get a moment.
This doesn't change who you are. And this is something that a lot of people go through. I love you, and I'm with you.
It's difficult to remember the exact day my life fell apart.
championships. 42 years. 135. Beat. 5.
Every day had become a bad day. I'm from Ann Arbor, and I was playing football for the University of Michigan. Yet here I was, 19 years old, hating myself and my life. I had no motivation, no pleasure in anything. I had all the classic signs of depression, but didn't know what it was. Then, I was hit by the perfect storm of stressors. The pressure of getting good grades, competing for playing time. I was supposed to gain weight and get faster. And back home, my parents' marriage was crumbling. I finally broke down. And I found myself sobbing uncontrollably. How can I keep living if every day, every hour, every minute was so damn difficult? I didn't realize it then, but depression had run a sledgehammer through my life. This whole time, I was afraid to let anyone know I was struggling. Now, there was no choice. The next thing that happened saved my life. My athletic trainer noticed me in distress and helped me get set up with therapy. My therapist taught me techniques about mindfulness and how to be aware of my thoughts without being consumed by them. When I stopped hiding from the world and let people in, I was met with love and compassion.
This doesn't change who you are. And this is something that a lot of people go through. I love you for you. And that's whether you're happy or whether you're sad. I love you. Bye.
I learned that depression is a diagnosed illness. It's common, especially among college students, and it can be treated. Because I opened up and got help, I became a better football player, a better student, a better friend, and a better person. In hindsight, overcoming depression is the greatest blessing of my life.
Your mental health is just as important as your physical health.
Don't suffer in silence. Our doors are always open.
Awesome. So, as you heard in the video, had just about every symptom there was of depression, anxiety, but had no idea what that was. And so I really go into the story with the students or with the audience, and coming out of high school and first year of college going great, and moving home at the end of the first year and starting to, at the time, what I told myself was go crazy because I didn't have any language for mental health. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what depression was. Didn't know what anxiety was, and describe the racing thoughts that I would have and the incessant morbid thoughts that I would have and what I decided to do about them being 19 and pretty ignorant and not understanding that this was a medical issue, right? Deciding that I was going to treat this like the other hard things in my life, such as AP classes or football, that I should be able to put my head down and tough it out. I go into the first attempt at treatment and why I think it didn't work and how it's very common to change therapists and that oftentimes medications don't work. It doesn't mean that you write off the entire field of psychiatry or of treatment because it doesn't work the first time. So I really enjoy sort of bridging the gap between what these brilliant scientists and researchers have found out about mental health and about the brain, and then what society actually knows and uses. I think for a long time, and part of the reason I wasn't made aware of depression and anxiety when I was growing up was because we didn't know enough and it was stigmatized, and we all know that story. And now that that's not the case anymore, or at least the stigma is lifting and we know so much more and we have so many more effective treatments, to be able to get that message out to people earlier so they don't let something that, might be a stress fracture, turn into a full break or a compound fracture. So I use a lot of analogies when I talk about going to, or these illnesses not discriminating, right? Seeing them in all corners of society, rich, poor, and at first you're like, how is that possible? And you realize, well, like, people get diabetes and cancer and people break bones, and it's not determined by your socioeconomic status or your race or your religion. And so, again, to be able to understand mental illness, to embrace it, to get treatment when we are not liking the way we are feeling, and being able to have the language and tools to discuss those things are some of the things that I'm really passionate about and some of the things that I try to bring to an audience. And then most importantly, just the Q&A at the end, which is the dialogue and what I consider to be the most impactful. So thank you for your time and look forward to questions.
Did you guys end up getting the PowerPoint? Oh, sweet. Nice. Where's the clicky thing? All right. This isn't me, though. I'll wait till they pop it up here. I haven't ever done a PowerPoint since high school. Who saw who saw the presentation, my Magic of Hope presentation? Did anyone in the room see it? Put your hand down. Who did not see it, just so I can... Okay, well, you rose your hand twice, so I'm quite confused, but I'm just joking. Okay, so my name's Anthony Grupido. I'm 24 years old and from Lake Orion, and currently I visit about 200 schools around the country every year within a school assembly program called the Magic of Hope. It didn't always start that way. When I was in high school, I started to develop this program inside of my magic show and to develop this kind of talk for those who saw it. It's a suicide prevention and coping skills assembly, but I use magic instead of a PowerPoint. When I was getting out of high school, every organization, every school, and every single place that I went to went, ha, that we don't need that here. What are you talking about? Because maybe I didn't have really a track record. So naturally, I got in a Ford Focus with my best friend, and I went to Las Vegas, and I started to street perform and do the exact same presentation that you saw, just on the side of the street, living out of a Ford Focus and collecting tips. And this went on for a very long time. I went from Denver, Colorado, to Vegas. I got eaten alive on Venice Beach and ran into a street gang that kicked my butt. And then we had to go back to Vegas and eventually home because I went broke. When I got home, I had apparently caught the attention of a couple newspapers, and Common Ground saw that I was an inpatient there, and they reached out to me and they said, hey, we want you to start speaking for us to raise funds. And I said, okay, cool. That's where I met Tony Rothschild, who passed away about a year ago yesterday, and he really coached and mentored me. Originally, what I wanted to do was be a magician who had a giant platform, and then I would use that platform to talk to my audience about mental health, like I've seen other entertainers do. But he told me that I needed to mix messaging together. And that's what I need to do for the rest of my life, and it would reward me, and he could not have been more right. I really miss him. As you can see here now, that actually is at Roseville Middle School last week. That is on the right side of my presentation. I try to break down a lot of the barriers that come with it, which I'll talk about in a minute. I provide all of my own equipment. Most schools have these terrible, terrible overhead speakers that don't work. The microphones don't work. The students are not into it. And for those of you who study theater, when it comes from the stage, it's a lot more attentive, and it's a lot more rhetoric if it's just coming from around the room, especially when it's middle school and high school students, people who aren't, they have to go to the assembly. So my presentation curriculum uses magic in storytelling to share facts and statistics about mental illnesses and suicide, to identify mental health and wellness tools, healthy coping behaviors, and unhealthy coping behaviors, how to end cyberbullying, my personal story of survival, recovery, and hope, and then the power of words, which is where abracadabra comes in. For those of you who weren't at the presentation, abracadabra means what I speak is what I create, and I go very far into how externally and internally the words that you speak outwards and inwards are so important. My objectives. Afterwards, the classes, I provide a lot of the tools for this, but sometimes the schools like to take it on their own. The objectives is after the presentation, you'll be able to list 3 symptoms related to depression, identify 2 healthy coping strategies related to depression, be able to describe two potential effects of cyberbullying, and you will experience the positive effects of magic on purpose. A lot of people forget that magic has been around, one of the oldest art forms that we have, even before writing. And it has had such an amazing power and influence in politics and health and wellness and every single factor of our lives. Oop, there we go. Now, responses. About 4 years ago is when I really started kicking off this assembly program, and I've received over 500 just private messages from students and from teachers. I wanted to read a couple of them to you, and there's a couple different ones. Some of them are really nice, like this one. Hi, I go to Kingsley High School and saw you this morning. I couldn't stop to talk to you in person, but I wanted you to know that I really appreciate you coming to talk to everyone today and sharing your story. I've been going to therapy for almost 3 years for anxiety and depression, but I've had these problems since 6th grade when I got cyberbullied. I found your presentation amazing, inspiring, and it really spoke to me. And on the other side, we have a teacher. I just want to give you some feedback from the speaker that came yesterday. They sent this to the school principal. I wanted you to know that I think that it was a wonderful thing he came to talk to our students. Depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation are horrible realities that our kids face today. The deal with the challenge is much different than when I was a child. Many kids don't grow up learning any coping skills either. So thank you for bringing in the speaker. My children are from different ages, and they all had great takeaways from his presentation. They all enjoyed the magic, but even more so, they were able to tell me the connections he made with his feelings. This age group is hard to reach, and I think what he is doing is amazing. And she talks about how cool I am for a couple bits, so skip on that. But then we get into something a little more serious. I get nice messages with thank yous. I get questions related to self-harm, suicide, and the ones that I won't show you here today, this is about as close as I'll get to it. I actually get students, even today I got one, saying, I am self-harming, or I have a plan to kill myself. And from there, I work with the school. A lot of the time, it's the counselor/therapist inside the school, and they handle it directly because that is out of my control, especially when I'm not even in the same state. Hey, it's the girl in the yellow from Lamphere. I just want to thank you for coming to our school, talking to us about your journey through self-harm and how mental health should be taken seriously. I've struggled with it for a while, and hearing your story means a lot. I'm now getting help after hearing you yesterday, so thank you for coming to our school, and don't ever stop talking about it. I found out later when I talked to this girl that she had a really bad self-harm issue, and she wasn't getting any help, and none of her friends knew, and now she's doing really, really great. This is another one. This is from Kingsley High School. I can't say this enough. Thank you so much. Our school really needed this. I personally needed this. Since March, I lost 4 people to suicide, and one was just last night. I gave this presentation in April, I believe. One was the night before I came to the school, and that's happened on more than one occasion. I've also known people who have attempted. I guess this helps me understand what people go through and that we all need a little help, and that's okay. This is where we get a little bit of a difference. On the left side, I just kind of want to skip down. Your story really hit hard, and so did a lot of the things you said. The moment that those chains dropped from around you was when it hit that others do do know how I feel, and me just thinking I'm alone in this world isn't how I should feel. So thank you so much for that. That's a student saying, I now know I'm not alone, because sharing stories of hope and survival really do something. And as you guys said, you don't have to be, a doctor. You don't have to have a degree to do these things. You just have to care. On the right side, this is where I actually followed up with a student, and he was able to share with me, kind of intervening with the counselor. I don't want to go, I'm timed. But he said, hey, I just want to thank you for coming to my school. Just hearing your story really made me realize the things I have been doing in my life to help with certain things, and realizing that they aren't going to help me long term and they're just temporary fixes. Come to find out, he was using drugs and alcohol to cope and to deal with his stressful environment at home, and he is no longer doing that, so I'm told. The presentation, for some reason that's over there, I don't know what happened there. The presentation goes at a lot of schools, conferences, obviously, fundraisers. I do a lot of fundraisers. Air bases. For those of you who don't know, more airmen die by suicide than any other enemy on the planet. We lose more of our airmen that take their own life than anything else on the entire planet. I got to speak at Selfridge Air Base in December to the entire base, and they are not allowed to talk about, they can't have depression, they can't have anxiety. You cannot be bipolar. If you share that, you get an honorable discharge. Ask every single airman that's active. I've also been on radio shows, the schools and et cetera, but the presentation is designed for any audience who wants to have fun and who wants to learn. And it really does mean a lot to me. So this is my calling. I took religion out of it, although I do look up to, I have a relationship with God, and I believe that I've been called to heal people from suffering, and I think that all of us here today can relate to that. That is why you're here, to help people who are suffering. I've also been called to help people transcend mental health stigma, and that's the reason I use magic. To create environments where mental wellness thrives. Apparently, my calling was at air bases and schools, because that's primarily what I do. To bring joy and laughter to others, and of course, to lead by example. So no, you don't find me doing mental health and wellness talks, and you don't find me at after-hours bars at 3 in the morning. And that's another thing that a lot of people forget, that yes, you can be a huge entertainer on television and say, hey, we need to promote mental health and wellness, but you can't tweet you chugging a bottle of alcohol 2 seconds later because the students follow you. But the presentation, unfortunately, I'm a 24-year-old. I don't have an organization. Places like Children's Foundation sponsored me for like 6 different assemblies. I've worked with, with KnowResolve at some point along the lines, Prepare You. I mean, amazing presentations. And any way that I can work with you or that you guys have any feedback, it's always grateful. I'm just trying to do the right thing. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, so at this time, are there any questions from the audience? I can run around. Oh, excellent. We have one right here.
Hi, this question is for, is it Ryan? No. Will, I'm sorry, I can't see your name. When you were talking about that, or the video talked about how you were doing the mindful training to kind of reframe thinking, how long did it take you before you weren't consumed by the negative thoughts with that kind of training?
Oh, did he turn it off? Let me see. Here, we'll take this one.
Just flick it on. It should be.
I think it's good. Yeah. So at first, I was having incessant morbid thoughts like every 5 seconds throughout the day. So at first, those tools, I would see improvement by noticing, hey, I went a minute, or I went 5 minutes, or eventually I went, a whole class period. Not having those thoughts, I call them racing thoughts. And it was mindfulness, once I got with a therapist, Barb, who you saw in the video, it was mindfulness that helped me even be able to understand seeing my thoughts at a distance, to understand why journaling might be helpful. And so maybe over the course of like 6 months or something like that, before I felt like, hey, I'm as healthy as I ever was. But that was along with great treatment and supports in other areas. but yeah, the mindfulness work, I think of it as sort of it balances us back out. It's sort of like lifting for your brain, and so it was very helpful to me, and something that I've seen people have success with since.
Thanks, Will. Okay, any other questions? Oh, we got one back here. All right, tell us what you're thinking.
Anthony, this isn't so much a question, but I just want to share with you and everyone else in this room. When you mentioned Kingsley High School, a high school right across the state from Kingsley, that was happening to us at the same time. We lost 5 students. My grandson Reed, he was 14, he was the second student, and the last one that we had was last March. So our hearts and thoughts were with Kingsley, as we knew the same thing was happening with them as we in Ogama Heights.
What
So-
school?
Ogama Heights, West Branch, Rose City.
Okay, yeah, I visited them shortly after Kingsley as well.
You did?
I did last year at the very end of the year, I believe. Don't
Because I
hold me
have
for that.
5 other grandchildren there, so they're still traumatized. So, and I didn't hear about you going, but or we would have.
I could be wrong. I
We would have
apologize
been
if I-
there. We would have been there to see you if we knew.
Okay,
So,
then it
yeah.
wasn't me.
Thank you for what you're doing. Pardon?
Nothing, I'm sorry. I'm terrible.
I thought I heard you say my name. Like, oh, I know that, Grandma. So, yeah. And Will, is it Will, U of M? Yeah, Will. Where's your hometown?
Ann Arbor?
Oh, okay.
Is there another question from the audience for any of the panelists? Right here, thank you.
This is for Dennis. For the shed, is it open 24/7? I mean, when do students, are they allowed to come? And what type of staff do you have there when the, young adults are there?
Regular hours are Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m. It's an after-school activity center. And then we are open for special events on evenings or weekends. And that calendar and schedule is determined by the Youth Advisory Council. I myself am there, and my sister Michelle, who is our office manager, and we have started recruiting volunteers for the after-school program as well. We're always looking for help, and there is a volunteer application form on the website.
If you go online, you can find the schedule for all the things going on at the shed. I have to say that was pretty cool. Okay, do we have any other questions from the, we got one back here. All right, what are you thinking?
So I'm just a parent here in Plymouth, but there are definitely have been suicides here in the high school. And how would the school systems approach any of you for your presentations or your curriculum or whatever?
Start like Will, go this way probably.
Sure. Yeah, so can be reached by email or by phone. I'll give my email now. It's just my first last name, so William.Heininger. You can find that. I won't trouble you with the spelling, but in the program at gmail.com. If you're interested, I can speak with you after, and also you can find my UMich email on the internet as well, the directory.
I remembered my business cards this year, so I have them with me. KnowResolve.org is the website, and we also have all kinds of materials in the resource room at our table.
For myself, they can go to prepareyou.live. They can also contact us directly. We're happy to any schools that we can get to, meet with everybody in person, walk them through every step. We know that a lot of people have anxieties when it comes to this and their capabilities to sit with students. So we make it a point to try to meet with anybody personally, and we like to be engaged in the process as much as they'll have us.
For my assembly, you can visit themagicofhope.com. 8 out of 10 people who book me are school counselors. Hello, she was right. 10% are students, and then the other 10% I would just kind of generalize as maybe a parent or another teacher or a principal, superintendent as well. But it's themagicofhope.com. And then, can I ask a question for these guys that I've always wondered, and regarding stigma. With my presentation, I've ran into barriers where superintendents and or principals believe that by talking about suicide or bringing this kind of assembly into a school, it increases the likelihood that a student will follow through with it or puts the idea in their head. There are still superintendents, administrators, and people who believe this. How do you overcome that barrier? And maybe it might even be a religious barrier where a school has literally told me, well, you're not Jewish. We don't allow outsiders to speak at our school. How do you overcome these kind? Well, no, seriously. This is a real things that I have experienced in a very short amount, 3-4 years of doing this. Have you guys experienced that? And how do you overcome our barriers?
So, yeah, so we have about 5 minutes left. I just wanted to say, as a school person, we talked about this in the earlier morning resource panel as well.
I missed it.
So, no, I know you did, but I just wanted to let you know that as a school person, I always say in 5th grade, we start talking to kids about drug prevention, either with Smart Moves or DARE, and parents rejoice and jump up and down and go to the graduation. So everyone pretty much is in agreement that drug education doesn't cause drug abuse or drug use. And when they flip it over to talking about mental health, all of a sudden everyone thinks it's going to create a mental health problem. And the same is with sex ed. Oh my gosh, if we talk about sex ed, then everyone's going to have sex. It's just simply untrue. So there's research out there that supports talking about suicide doesn't cause suicide. I would draw from that research. And Ryan, it looks like you have something to say.
Yeah, well, we encounter this all the time. And I would say I'd go a layer deeper with this, is that one of the challenges that really isn't talked about is many individuals in this room, in our families, and at school boards, or the admin, they have been brought up in a culture that you do not talk about mental health. Guess what happens when that person has to experience a 13-year-old talk about mental health openly? They get triggered. They get activated. Everything for them that they didn't deal with starts coming to the surface. So I will tell, and I tell students all the time, and it's I'm getting chills talking about it because it bothers me. The adults need to get the hell out of the way so kids can have a healthy experience, because it is our past generations that are affecting the ability for these kids to feel safe, and that's why they are taking their life. They don't have parents that know how to take them and listen to them and sit with their uncomfortableness. They tell them, it's okay, tomorrow do that. Do your work, stop complaining, stop doing this. And then the parent goes and plugs in their device. So I'm telling you, it's many layers, but the best thing we can do, and we are starting to say this is like one of our new taglines, do your part. Own your baggage, okay? Know that whatever might come up, it's coming up for you. Don't deprive somebody else from being healthy and having a healthy process.
And so your approach is slightly more confrontational than my approach.
Of course, I was just.
So I'm just saying.
That's what I do. I break down walls.
Ryan, I'm not arguing.
Sorry.
I think what you said is really awesome, but I don't.
I'll be more
I'm just
gentle
afraid. No. You do your thing. You're great. I'm just saying, coming from a school standpoint, if I have a lot of issues and baggage, and then you told me to check my baggage, I probably wouldn't have you. I'm just saying, like, we just need to be really
I didn't tell you
careful.
there, but
No.
You're right.
I'm just saying, like, we want to get these programs in. We want to get them in, and we need to do whatever we have to do. I find that data is really helpful, and yes, people have baggage. I'm not disputing what you're saying, okay? I live it every day, especially with sex ed. Look what the baggage people have with sex. I deal with this all the time. So, 100% yes. But we might want to.
We're having a candid conversation here.
My FIDE data.
We're gonna have it. We have great data.
We do. Data.
That's the bottom line. It works. It's
yes, sir. We have 3 minutes. Does anyone else want to address the barriers, or do we want to take another question?
I just wanted to briefly say it, and I'm curious that you guys would agree, but in every school I've been to, the kids know more than the adults. Yeah. And it makes sense. We weren't raised with it. They are, and why that's important that they're the first generation, having it. So yes, the administrators sometimes don't act out of fear, and that's part of why Kevin Song is helping to highlight these various kinds of programming, because it matters where you start, but you don't have to be perfect. You have to do something, right?
Thanks, Will. Go ahead.
I'm a clinical psychologist in Commerce Township, Michigan, and I signed up for this about 4 or 5 days ago. I realized that, and I'm here just to learn more and help the pediatricians who call me and the school people who call me, but I realized I got 2 phone calls while I'm here. I think there were already 2 suicides in Commerce today, or within the past 2 days. Someone just called me about 2 different. Yeah. So we need to inform our kids and our parents and the school, and we need to start young.
Yep. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are at the time right now. I want to give you first of all, give a big round of applause for our panelists. They're fabulous. And then I have a little bit of information for you.